What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Clutch Crew Sports. I'm your lead host, Zach, and on this episode, we're here to talk all things coronavirus and how it relates to the sports world. We're going to answer some questions, give our predictions about it, and just share our experiences of when we found out all this news and what it means for this podcast, too, going forward. Now, let me introduce you guys to the rest of the crew.
What's up, guys? I'm Connor. You know me as the co-host with the most, and no sports sucks.
What's going on, guys? This is Eric here, your ranting co-host. Pretty good chance there will be a rant tonight.
Haven't had one in a while.
Yeah,
It's been a minute.
there will be one indeed. I'm sure coming up. So this is the only slide here on YouTube you're gonna see. So there's no real need to pay attention to this on YouTube. Basically, guys, this episode, like I said in the intro, we're just gonna be talking about the coronavirus and how that's impacted sports, what we think is gonna happen moving forward. But I do want to start off with a little bit of an update to the Clutch Crew Sports podcast because, you know, we rely so heavily at talking about sports and we need actual sports to happen to talk about sports. So because it's,
sorry, UFC, we don't count you.
yeah, we're just basically what we're going to be doing, guys, is we're going to be in as long as this virus is in effect with the sports leagues, as long as there's no NBA being played and all the other sports really coming to a halt until that stuff starts picking back up again. We're going to be limiting ourselves to one episode a week, and they'll probably be the Tuesday episode, so Fridays will be cut out. Now, I do want to add, this Friday we are going to have our free agency recap show. That's still scheduled to plan because free agency is still going on, and it wasn't canceled because of the coronavirus. So free agency recap on Friday. Then after that, it'll just be Monday shows moving forward until this ends. And the kinds of things that you'll expect to see on the Monday shows, we anticipate having another Sports Jeopardy game hosted by Nate. Hopefully that'll be coming in a couple weeks. We might have some new guests on the show. We might be guest starring in a show or two. Who knows? And then we are going to come out with a new kind of like mini series to the podcast where we come up with top 10s. So it's going to be top 10 lists of a variety of different things. We haven't settled on the topics of all those yet, but basically that'll kind of be a filler type episode because we don't really need any new information for those top 10 lists. But it'll just be a combination.
Looking forward to those.
Yeah, those will be fun to do. It'll just be a combination of those sort of things. More Sports Jeopardies. Hopefully you guys like those. Guess maybe if there's a breaking news things, we'll talk about that. But it's really going to be limited to those sort of things since there's no live sports going on. So hopefully you bear with us with that. But we do promise to come back 2 episodes a week once this all goes past, and once we start getting sports again, we'll go back to that. But those are all the updates I really got to share with you guys. But we'll get into the episode now. So basically, guys, if you haven't heard, the coronavirus has basically wiped out every sport except for maybe UFC. Basically, every sport's been canceled, postponed, or delayed. And it's really, really pretty crazy because I was so looking forward to March Madness this year. Even though Tennessee probably wasn't going to be in the tournament, this was one of the most wide open tournaments in recent memory. A bunch of low radar schools like Dayton, San Diego State, really had chances to win this year's tournament. I think a lot of people would have had a great time watching this. There would have been a lot of upsets, quote unquote upsets, but that's just because this field is so even from top to bottom. And we really got robbed of that. And personally, like I said, on a selfish level, guys, my spring break is right now from college, so I was going to be free on spring break. And then also my school said that for 2 weeks we were doing remote study, so I was going to have even more time to watch March Madness. I could have watched all the games, really, if they were going to take place. But then we saw the warning signs when all those tournaments happened, and the conference tournaments got canceled, and that was really the setup for the ultimate bombshell drop that the NCAA was canceling all the spring tournaments and all that stuff, and they made a distinction too, canceling, which means there's no plan of them like doing this in May or something like that. They were totally canceled, which personally, even if this is going to impact through May, at least give us some sort of hope that we're going to maybe have them, maybe for this players and all this stuff. Like, just give us maybe a little bit of optimism that if this virus does go on an optimistic course for humanity, that we might get it back in May. But instead, they just shut that down and said, nope, we're done. There's nothing going on this year. And then that, for me, was really the most depressing thing of all the sports that was being canceled, just because there's so many teams. I mean, it's March Madness is truly, in my opinion, the greatest sporting event to watch. To me, it beats the Super Bowl because it's weeks and weeks. It's full day. The Super Bowl, you got a full day of pregame and stuff like that. With March Madness, you get a full day of actual drama, actual games going on, and it's even if you don't have a rooting interest, everybody fills out a bracket, and you kind of have a rooting interest with your bracket. And not to brag or anything, but I usually do really good on the brackets. I usually come in the top 3 in our family bracket group. I mean,
I think
it's
you're the only one who's
unofficial.
won twice, right?
Yeah, I think I'm the only one who's won it twice, but it seems like every year I finish either first or second or third. So this is, guys, I struggle in fantasy football, I really do. But when it comes to March Madness brackets, that's usually where everybody's like, oh man, all my Final Four teams are out, but I'm like, oh, I got 3 left, and it's the Sweet 16, and everybody else has 2 left, and then I can share, I can have that moment of joy. But yeah, so to me, the March Madness thing, that was really the kicker. But I am glad that NFL free agency is still going on, because that's another one too where it's just I don't know, I'm weird, I guess. I just like to watch all the news coming in about these free agents. This year it's been a little bit less chaos, less anticipation with the Jaguars not doing any major signings. I mean, we're getting rid of players, so but still, it's still cool to have these predictions that we made in the last episode, and then see, oh, where's this team going, and then watch Adam Schefter or somebody grab their cell phone and be like, oh, breaking news, we just got this. And also this year too, Twitter has been an interesting experience to be a part of. Twitter in going through free agency, because you get all sort of burner accounts posting fake messages that you got to weed through. Eric knows about that. Um, and it's you hear fans' reactions too, so you can get, not only do you get the reaction from the experts on TV, but you get the average fan, see how excited they are about a player. If a team lost a player, how sad are they about losing that player? It's just a cool way to gauge all these top players and what they mean to these teams and these fans. But as far as the NBA being canceled, guys, I'm not the biggest NBA fan to watch it. The games just, they aren't played at. I mean, when it comes to the playoffs, it's a little bit different. But in the regular season, there's just no defense really being played. It's good basketball. Don't get me wrong; it's amazing. The basketball being played in the NBA is incredibly high, but it's just, I don't know. It just never really catches my eye in the regular season. So I only really watch big time matchups, or if I've got nothing to do and like the Magic are playing, maybe I'll turn it on and watch a little bit. But I rarely watch from start to finish because it's pretty long. Um, so, but still, I know a lot of you guys really love the NBA, and now that that's gone, it's really, really painful experience. And same with all the other sports too. NHL, that's a sport that I sometimes watch, but I really don't know much about it. But still, I know those fans are diehard. They're missing the sport right now, and really,
This guy.
yeah. But now I really want to get into the discussion of what's going to happen, and these are just pure speculation thoughts from me. I don't think that the NBA season's going to finish out. I think it's going to be too late in the year for it to work out. I just think they're going to end up scrapping the season personally, and just coming back next year. I know it's crazy because all the money and stuff, but with all the with every all the health experts and everything going out, this seems like it's going to be here for a long time, and I think it might be around July-ish when they can get back on the court. And then it's going to be unfair to not finish the regular season because team schedules are going to be totally different, strength of schedules that is. Um, and then also you're going to really mess up next year if you start out in July and the playoffs usually take like 2 months or so. You don't finish till, and then basically you'll finish around when your league year is going to start up again next year. So what I think is going to end up happening, guys, is unfortunately I do think they're just going to end up not finishing out the rest of the year. I think they will try and do the draft kind of remotely, like the NFL is going to do their draft in like June, free agency after that too. I think they're going to try and do that stuff, but it's really, really going to mess up next season if they do decide to go through with this. And I personally, I don't think they're going to want to deal with that because this year is already going to have a question mark. It's going to be really weird with this season playing out, and then next season also being affected by this season. I think they're just going to want to move on and kind of like March Madness, just cancel it. Just look forward to next year. I think that's going to happen. Probably the same for the NHL too. I think those two sports really go hand in hand with the way that their seasons match up. That's just my predictions. I could be wrong, but I think that's where we're leaning. And then all the tournaments and stuff in between that are going to be canceled. I really don't think we're going to get back to normal with sports until maybe July, unfortunately. Um, that's not good, but just what I think. I hope I'm wrong with that. I hope it's sooner, but I just don't know with this virus. I mean, I really didn't give it the attention and stuff it deserved the last time I talked about it because I was talking about mostly overseas stuff. And then it just happened so quickly where in a matter of days after I talked about how the overseas sports were reacting to it, that now American sports are reacting to it. And I think a lot more players are going to end up being tested positive for this in the coming days, and it's just not a good thing for sports in general. I don't think the Olympics are going to be played. I'd be shocked if those happen. I'm not sure what the policy is on rescheduling those for a certain date later, or how that's going to end up being. But those are just my general thoughts about this. This is kind of like an airing of grievances type of episode. We're each going to give our general thoughts, kind of like what we were most sad about, all those sort of things. I guess I'll go next to Eric then. Eric, what do you want to? I'm sure you're gonna lay in a rant, but just you have the floor,
Yeah.
man. Talk about this.
Yeah, my rant may not be exactly where y'all might think that it would be because I understand why these sports leagues are taking the severe precautions that they're taking, especially in the NBA with players starting to get it. I mean, they really didn't have a choice. I do wish for March Madness though that they could have tried to find a way to reschedule it in a couple months, maybe, or whenever the virus dies down, even if they have to wait till summer to do it. It would be really nice to have that because March Madness, it's similar to. I'm not quite as passionate about it as Zach is, but at the same time, March Madness is the perfect thing for me when football's over and there's not as much going on since football is my favorite sport. March Madness fills a lot of that void during that 6 months of the off season for football. So I'm definitely going to be missing that as well. But just this virus thing is just so crazy because it just seems like with every tragedy or big thing that's ever happened in the United States, there's always still been sports. Even when 9/11 happened several years ago, sports still continued and resumed pretty shortly afterwards. It was a way to help people get through the tragedy. And even just most recently, when Kobe Bryant died, which was a big deal, there were a lot of people that were mad that the NBA wasn't canceling games. But in a way, I kind of liked it because it helped. All the teams did the tributes to Kobe and they honored him. And, the teams played at max effort for Kobe. And it was a way to get through that. But this is the first time in my life that there's been something so crazy in the world where it takes out every single sport. I mean, I can't watch XFL, I can't watch NBA, I can't watch college basketball, I can't watch hockey. And I'm not really a baseball person, but when baseball season about to start, I can't watch baseball. Like sometimes I bet on NASCAR, so I'll watch a NASCAR race every now and then. I can't watch that. Like I can't. There's nothing. And I know even there's a lot of other sports that we don't ever talk about that more for us miscellaneous sports that Connor likes to watch, and he doesn't even have those available. So it's got to be even more frustrating for him. But what I want to rant on though is these people that are blowing this thing out of proportion, because obviously I understand being precautious, but at the same time, I have to go in on these people that are going to grocery stores and stockpiling and hoarding things like toilet paper and hand sanitizer and hand soap and doing things like that, because you're preventing people that really do need this stuff from being able to get it. And there's a lot of people, like, while the death rate of coronavirus is extremely low, it's it still has a high death rate for the elderly that have contracted it. But then elderly people can't even go in the grocery store to get the things they need for them to be able to, stay quarantined in their house to make sure they don't contract the virus, because they can't even get a roll of toilet paper. They can't get any hand sanitizer or soap. They can't get any of this stuff. I mean, I live in a city that doesn't even have any confirmed cases of coronavirus yet. And I was in our grocery store just a couple of days ago. There was no toilet paper. There was no paper towels, no hand soap, barely any of that, no hand sanitizer, no mac and cheese, no ramen noodles, no bananas, no cereal, no Pop Tarts, no. Their freezer section of foods was pretty wiped out. Just it was just insane. I've never it, and it's crazy because I live in a city that was heavily hit by Hurricane Harvey, and I've had people living here that tell me that the grocery store situation and stuff is worse with this virus that doesn't even have a case in the city I live in yet, over Hurricane Harvey, which we knew was going to hit our town. Everybody knew that we were going to get rampaged by this hurricane, and people didn't prepare as much as they're preparing for this thing. It's just unreal to me. And I think especially people that are going out and buying and stockpiling all this stuff and trying to sell it on eBay for a higher price, or people like that, those people that do that, if you're listening to this and you do that, you're pathetic. I'm sorry. That is so sad that you're going to take advantage of people like that. There was even a lady that came in the restaurant that I work in the other day with a big pack of toilet paper and was going up to people and trying to sell them rolls of toilet paper. I didn't hear how much they were trying to get for it, but they were walking up to people
Did you
and
kick them
trying
out?
to sell them toilet paper. Well, I didn't. By the time I saw them, like, they were walking out the door, but the lady looked really mad because probably because nobody was buying it from her. But
Everybody was like, "Screw you, go away."
yeah, I mean, how are you going to do that to people, man? It's such a shame. It's like when we have a time like this where people are at risk and people might be out of work for a while and people are going to be losing income. I mean, it could happen to me. I work in a restaurant. I'm a server. We've been super slow the last week. I've made barely any money. And I'm sure it's happening for other servers nationwide. I know there's other people that are, not able to work right now because they can't.
The hospitality industry as a whole.
When something like this is going on, this is a time where people need to come together and help each other out. Say, when you see somebody less fortunate, be like, oh man, you don't have any, toilet paper or hand sanitizer right now to keeping your house safe, I'll lend you a couple rolls, or I'll give you a thing of hand sanitizer. Not, oh, I'm going to go buy all of it up in the store so that nobody can have any. Oh, here, you can have this pack of toilet paper. Just give me $100. Like, no, I mean, I would go more non-PG with this if we weren't we're more of like a family friendly.
If we were on
clean.
Twitch and we could use the
yeah, but I mean, if I could like really air my grievances, I would really be going in on these people, because stuff like that just makes me sick to my stomach and I hate it. So that's more so what upsets me about this than the cancellation of sports. Obviously, the cancellation of sports sucks, and like, I was so depressing with that. I watched a marble race earlier today. It was pretty exciting.
They actually are.
But it was crazy because the one I saw, this like light blue marble, was out in the front the entire time, but then it hit this like barricade, and this black marble took the lead, and it was like, oh man, it's all over. But then somehow the light blue marble got back in the lead and won. It was nuts. But obviously,
to hear like commentary on this.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that for our next Clutch Crew Sports video. I'll take that video and dub my commentary over it. But in all seriousness, the lack of sports sucks. But at the same time, I understand it, because we don't want the disease spread around. But people that are doing all this crap with toilet paper and hand sanitizer, they need to get a life, man. So Connor, I'll pass it over to you for your thoughts now.
Love to follow that.
Take a breath.
Yes, calm down, Eric.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like Zach said, I'm one that watches a more broad range of sports, but like when I saw that, I don't even really watch tennis that much, but I saw tennis was like canceling all their tournaments. Like Formula One's already canceled the first race of the season. Like, I'm surprised they haven't announced that they, haven't canceled the second race. So I think the second race is in Bahrain, and they were talking about canceling it. And they already canceled the third race, which was when this whole thing started. So it really is bad. And I think, both you guys were talking about that you wish that you could find a way for March Madness to go along. And I know Zach was talking about that he thinks the NBA is going to finish the season. I think I would have to take the opposite approach on both of those, because with the NBA, these athletes, it's basically their full-time job. Like, they're paid to do this. And so I don't think it's as out of the question for them to maybe continue it down the road sometime in May or June, because, again, they're getting paid millions of dollars to do this, and this is all they do. They don't have stuff they do outside of this sport. They want to spend time with their family, sure, but like they don't have jobs or anything, especially the big time athletes. Maybe some of the smaller ones have, the guys who aren't making as much have other jobs, but the big time athletes, that's their job. Whereas with college students, these are unpaid, athletes. They have lives that they have studies that they have to do. They have, internships that they maybe want to do over the spring. I mean, maybe not all athletes want to do that, but, you can't expect these college students to, when it's supposed to be summer break time, to all of a sudden come back and start playing basketball again. I think that's an unrealistic, way to look at it, because, again, they're not paid. If they were paid, maybe sure, but they're not paid. So they can't be taking weeks out of their life to go and play in a basketball tournament when they could be doing
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if it's just me, but the audio on Connor's end is getting a little crackly. Eric, do you hear me fine?
Yeah, was on. Like, I know.
Yeah, Connor getting a little laggy there.
Okay, I'll take over real quick.
No, I mean, it should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better now, but you were going robotic there for a minute.
My signal here is not great. But yeah.
What else? Yeah, you can keep talking.
Yeah. So like what Eric was talking about with like the hoarding the stuff, like, especially these people that are hoarding all these like perishable items and whatnot at stores, like, what are you going to do with all that stuff? I mean, that stuff's going to go bad. And in the long run, you would have just wasted, possibly, if you're hoarding a lot of it, hundreds of dollars on like, meat and all this other stuff. Cause like, I know just going out to try and find stuff to eat for dinner, like, everything's out and they're not going to restock it until, a couple days from now, unless you go grocery shopping at like 10 in the morning, or like, wake up super early, like right after they restock everything, then you're not going to do it because, most of us, have lives still that we have to do. Some people, they don't have, they maybe work in an industry where like they're saying don't come to work. That's great for you. Like you don't have to go to work, but other people still have to go to work and they don't have time to go to the grocery store whenever. So, um, and I know that with Eric talking about people trying to sell the toilet paper and the hand sanitizer, thankfully, I think I was watching a video the other day that was talking about how like Amazon's at least trying to stop that. Like they've been trying to, if they see somebody posting something like hand sanitizer for $100, they'll remove that from their site. So that way, these people aren't trying to profit. I'm not saying people are buying it, but, that way it's not out there to try and remove all this negativity and price gouging and everything. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, these people, like, if you get caught doing it, then there's some severe penalties for that. And I know some states have come out because some stores were trying to do that, and they were like saying like, no, you can't do that. Like, this is a time of crisis. You can't be like in Texas when Hurricane Harvey hit, and there were places in Houston that were charging like $30 for a case of water. It's like, you can't do that. It's against the law to price gouge. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy, and Eric's right. Those people who are doing that, they're just pathetic. Like they have nothing better to do with their lives, and they're just trying to take advantage of people that are just trying to get stuff to live. Especially like older people, they need this stuff. Like Eric was saying, that they need to. Read an article on Facebook about this person, like an old person who I think was like a 92-year-old man was in a store, and he was like basically in tears and this woman came up to him and was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "This is the third store I've been to and I can't find any toilet paper. I just need like a couple rolls of toilet paper. I don't need like 15 rolls. I need like 2." And everybody's buying it all. So it's just unfortunate. And I think, unfortunately, like I know it was necessary for them to cancel all the sports, but I think that's almost kind of not helping anything. Because like Eric was saying before, the sports brings us together. It helps everybody heal and take their minds off of everything. Well, now when you cancel something like that and you cancel all these, events and concerts and all that stuff, which for good reason, I might add. Like I'm not going ranting, saying that they're bad for doing that, but it then nobody can focus on other things. They can solely focus on, crap, I'm going to hoard all this stuff and try and sell it on eBay because I have nothing better to do. I can't go to this concert. I can't go to this convention. I can't watch sports on TV, so I might as well just figure something else out to do, become an entrepreneur in this time of crisis. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, hopefully the sports can get back on. I will say, if we're talking about sports coming back, I believe the first ones to come back will probably be like the motorsports, because they can really, without the fans, and there's not a whole lot of interaction between people in motorsports. Like, in the NBA and NHL, like you're playing directly on the court against people, like you're touching them and blah, 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 blah. Whereas in at least motorsports like Formula One and NASCAR and like maybe even in tennis, because like, or golf, you're not having, maybe not golf, but you're having like not having direct contact with people. So I feel like those sports will probably be the first ones to come back, and then we can start gradually moving into like the NBA, the NHL, excuse me, baseball, stuff like that. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see what happens, but I'm somewhat it's kind of bittersweet. Like we're getting to have all this new content and new stuff that we're going to come up with and come out with on this channel, but it's also, bitter because we don't have anything, fresh in terms of like fresh content, but not fresh in terms of like the actual sports. So it's going to be interesting to see, but we'll just take it how it goes and do the best we can.
Exactly, yeah. And your audio was a lot better in that second half of your your seminar there, so that was good. But yeah, I mean, I agree with all you guys on the non-sports topics of this virus, and yeah, it's still crazy to me seeing the pictures of Clearwater Beach on Twitter. How that was a packed house down there, and apparently downtown Nashville was pretty lit. couple nights ago too. So there's obviously some places that you're going to see that are going to be, more affected. I think because of that. I do think it's one of those things where if we all do our part, and it same thing with the hoarding and stuff too. Like if we all act smart and everything, then we should be able to rid this virus. But there's going to be
Stay
people like
home.
there's going to be some people like I know that are going to be like trying to take advantage of these super cheap flights
Oh
to
yeah.
places and stuff and try and do that. But
Well,
and also with the young people too, I've I've heard reports that say like even though that's a low death rate, you're left with respiratory problems later,
oh
and
yeah.
you can have your respiratory system gets compromised. And then also too, you're being incredibly selfish by potentially killing people that you come in
Yeah.
contact with too and spreading it to them. So
Well,
it's yeah.
to play off that, I saw like Kayla was actually reading an article earlier about there's this guy who basically I think this I'm gonna put blame on the guy and put blame on it's Lego. I will say here. So basically, this guy had tested positive for the coronavirus, and Lego was having like this convention or whatever. And so they basically said like if you're having something that's going to have a lot of people, then cancel it because you can spread the disease. But they decided to keep going with it. And this guy who tested positive to go with the coronavirus, like, obviously, I guess he had bought some sort of pass or ticket to go there. So he went there and exposed like all these people to the
Oh my god.
coronavirus. And it's like, you know, yes, I'm going to put the blame on. I can see like some of the reason why he wants to go. Like you bought this ticket and they didn't cancel it because, which is their fault. They should, cancel it and refund you. But like, are you really going to be that selfish that you're just going to infect like hundreds of, potentially infect hundreds of other people because so you can go to this convention?
Yeah,
Like,
and end up
you
killing
know,
some of them, like too,
yeah.
like
And like,
can
if
be
they, and,
tried for murder.
right. Like, and I will say like, if you, um, I understand, like, you paid money to go to this and that you don't want to lose that money, but, just send a message or something to them and just, see if you can work with them. Be like,
Yeah.
hey,
Oh, I'm sure they'd
would it
be
be
understanding.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure they'd understand. Like, I got tested positive for the coronavirus and I see you haven't canceled the event. Is it possible I could get a refund because I can't go and I don't want to infect all these people? I'm sure they would work with you or at least
Mhm.
give you something rather than, like I
Yeah,
said, going and potentially infecting hundreds of other people.
yeah, and I do know Busch Gardens. They're the amusement park. They're since the park's closed, they're offering all their pass holders one extra month on their membership
Mm-hmm.
because they can't come during this. So places are going to be doing that sort of thing where obviously everything's going to be shut down. Everything, you're going to be there's no way you're going to be charged for this stuff because you're afraid to come out because of the coronavirus. Like it should be incentivized where you should stay home, really.
Yeah,
Um,
seriously.
yeah, so but that covers a lot of different things about this. Does anybody have any last things that they want to say? Like, I guess I'll ask Eric since he didn't bring it up. But Eric, do you see the NBA season coming back, or do you think like what do you think with the NBA season? Do you think it comes back? Do you think that it comes back and they don't play out the rest of the regular season? Do they shorten the playoffs or whatever? What do you see foregoing with the NBA?
My guess would be that, excuse me. My guess would be that it's probably. I'm kind of like you, where I don't think it's going to happen. Although I would prefer to see it happen. What I would really personally like to see happen would be to wait a little bit, wait this out, and then depending on the time frame, see if the NBA. I know they obviously have their collective bargaining agreement in place and all that, but see if they can come up with a way for this year to renegotiate the terms and see if they can come up with a way of doing maybe a reduced ending of the season. Because I want to say most of the teams probably had about 20 games left to play. Like, see if they can come up with some kind
Yeah.
of way to do a reduced ending of the season, and then maybe even do like a reduced playoff thing instead of having every series be best 4 out of 7. Maybe do the first 2 rounds best
Hmm.
3 out of 5, and then the last 2 rounds 4 out of 7 or something like that. I mean, this is pure rough draft here. I'm not proposing this
Yeah, yeah.
exact scenario, but but that
You're not the
way,
commissioner or anything.
no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not Adam Silver. So, but that way, there could at least be somewhat of an end of the season, and then still have a playoff, and then still have a champion, instead of, because the other alternative, they can't. By the time this virus thing passes, there's no way they can just go back and start right where they left off, and because like you said, that would go too far into the next season. They wouldn't get hardly any break before the next season would start. And then, but at the same time, then if you cancel it, you just have no champion. This whole regular season was
For
completely
nothing.
meaningless. But if they can
Yeah.
come up with some kind of improv way to shorten the end of the season and then maybe have a shorter playoffs, and that way we could at least have a winner and you have some excitement. But
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
gonna be
It's
interesting.
going to be tough to be able to do that. I don't really
It's
know
gonna
how
be
that would
tough.
play out. But
Another thing too is like, since teams aren't going to be meeting, like it's going to be several months before these teams can practice again with each other. It's going to be really rusty. It's going to be,
yeah, all the chemistries are
and
going to be thrown off.
who
And
knows, even with the Jazz, like how long, like I don't know. It just seems so crazy to think about the league. When they say the league coming back as early as June, it's just that's such a long gap for me to process. How are they gonna, in the regular season, the way that it's played out, because they didn't design it this way, it's played out so where certain teams have way easier schedules than others have. So then it brings in a whole fairness thing, like, well, what if the Blazers, who are 2 games back, what if they have like the one of the easiest schedules, and then they get to play the Grizzlies twice upcoming on their schedule, so where they can potentially fight their way to the playoffs. It's gonna there's definitely gonna be teams, if it does come back, that benefit and are harmed by the virus effect. If it does end up coming back, and we don't know what the circumstances would be, but I just find it hard. And going back to what Connor said earlier, I don't think the players should be held till the summer or anything. I was saying like in May, because if you ask these players, they would want to play. Um, I guarantee you the majority of them would want to play at this tournament in May if they could. So realistically, that's probably not going to be able to happen, but at least still have the possibility for the best case scenario. But I know it's not likely. And then the whole senior eligibility thing, it's looking like they might be extending that, which I don't know how many seniors are going to go to grad school for that, but that's it's an interesting thing to think about, because you could get some of these super teams like with these like fifth year seniors, and then with a good recruiting class, like it's gonna make next season really interesting if they do decide to allow for seniors to come back. But I mean, personally, I don't think I I would say don't do it, because yeah, it's your senior season and all, but you still had 3 years of potential tournaments and stuff. Like, it's not like these seniors are, oh, this is their only season and they never got to experience this. Like, they got to experience it, and they did get to experience the entire season, and the majority of teams aren't going to be making the tournament anyway. So I don't know. It just seems like one of those things that at first I was like, okay, maybe this is a good idea and fair idea. But the more I think about it, the more I think, how much practicality is this going to be, and really, is this really deserving? Just missing, you know, potentially a couple games at the end of your career to get a whole nother season for it. I guess that'll be like the final topic. Do you guys, where do you guys stand on that? I'll start with Eric
oh, sorry, I couldn't tell who you said
or
there.
Connor, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh.
No, I just stepped away, but I couldn't tell who you said, so sorry. But anyway, I
Oh.
tend to agree with you here. I don't think that they should get another year of eligibility. I think if this had happened much earlier in the season, then I would say yes, if most of the year was ruined. But they did get to play the majority of the season anyway, and most players at that point would probably be, depending on their skill level, be already wanting to get ready to try to go to the NBA anyway. But even if they're not going to be NBA caliber players, like you said, they would have already had 3 full seasons. That's, I don't think just missing out potentially on the tournament would be enough reason to give the players another year of eligibility. But yeah, I'm not an expert in this area, but but
yeah, and I don't want to tell any guy no, you can't do this, but like still, I mean, it's sad, but I think it's the right thing to do. But Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. They shouldn't be given another year of eligibility. I agree with what Eric said about how like if this had happened at the beginning of the year, then sure. But the season was over at this point. There was like the rest of the conference tournament and the March Madness tournament, but the rest of the season already took place. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to cut down on the number of one and dones probably, but too bad. Like you're going to have to go to college for another year if you don't think that you did a good enough job to get in the NBA. So,
Yeah.
Sucks to suck.
All right. Well, guys, that'll wrap this one up. Like I said, Friday we'll come back, free agency recap. I know Eric and I are going to be jumping up and down on that show for one reason. Stay tuned. You'll hear about why.
So, yeah,
I'm sure if y'all
but-
been keeping up with any sports news, you already know.
Yep.
Yeah, there may have been a rant in this episode, but there will be a rejoicing. I mean, we still have to see what the Jaguars are going to do because they haven't done anything yet. So if they make a dumb move, there could still be a rant. But if we were going to be doing it right now, it would be nothing but rejoicing.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you guys for listening. Stay safe out there, and remember, be clutch.
See ya.
Peace.